Hello everyone and welcome to my little corner of the internet. My name's Michael and I'm bitten by a radioactive book. Today I want to bring you a little bit of an update of what I'm currently reading. I'm currently reading 5 books, so let's get into them. First off, I'm reading The Magician by Raymond D. Feist. This is the first installment in his long-running Rift War cycle. I think overall there are like 31 books in the series, so yeah, quite an accomplishment. And I've read like maybe the first 4 to 5, like way back in the past in German, and I really want to give this a go again because this is really old school fantasy with wizards and dwarves and elves, dragons, and I really enjoyed that. It's taking me a long while, it's a long book to read that, but not because I'm not liking it anymore, because I'm savoring it and reading a chapter here and there, listening to a chapter while going to sleep, something like this. I'm about 60% through it at the moment, and yeah, I really enjoy it and I will continue to read it and maybe even like pick up the whole series. Basic idea here is we're following mainly 2 characters. The first is Puck, who is like a little boy in a castle, and he becomes the apprentice of a wizard, and his best friend Thomas is becoming the apprentice of like a knight or some kind of squire. And we see their friendship develop. We see typical coming-of-age stories. They are going on adventures, they get separated. There's more characters and more character perspectives, but these 2 are like the 2 main protagonists, and it's a really like old school feeling read, and I really enjoy it. Next up, we have Dragon Champion by E.E. Knight. I'm buddy reading this with Samantha from Sam's Nonsense, and this is a story, another coming-of-age story, but not of a little boy, but of a little dragon. And the dragon is born and has to flee the nest when the nest is attacked by dwarves and the mother and one of his sisters is killed. And then the dragon basically has to live on its own, has to figure out how to be a dragon and grow up, and of course there's the thought of revenge in his mind as well. And so it's an interesting kind of story. It's exclusively first person told by the dragon, it's not something that I'm totally too excited about. It's just like a nice story to read, so it's I think on a 3-star course at the moment. Next up, we have Son of the Morning by Marc Alder. It's the first installment in his Banners of Blood series. Marc Alder is actually, I think, a pen name for an author whose name I have forgotten, but he also writes under a second pen name, and that is M.D. Lachlan. And M.D. Lachlan, I've read a book by called Wolf's Angle, and that was about like Nordic Viking shape-shifting werewolf types, and that had like a lot of ancient ritual or ritualistic magic in it. And we're seeing some of that skill that the author has in this one as well. So the basic idea is we're seeing 100 Years' War between Great Britain or England and France, and in this world, like the Christianity is like grappable, because there's actually like angels and there's devils and demons, and they interact with the world. But beneath that is like actually like a change in the whole mythology that the people are not aware of, because actually Lucifer was the one who did the creation, and then Lucifer was usurped by another angel who then like said to his followers that he should be worshipped as a god, and he needed a place to put Lucifer and his fellow angels, and so he created hell, and he needed some gaolers, some people who imprison the demons, which Lucifer and his angels are actually called. And so he created Satan and the devils, and so we have actually, like, behind the scenes there's like three factions, but most of the people, there's only like a couple of cultists and believers in the world who believe this kind of thing behind the scenes, but actually most people believe the same things that Christianity in the real world believes in. And so we have this scenario where all, like, the great nations build their churches and cathedrals and hoard, like, religious or sacred artifact to get the attentions of angels, and then angels go into the churches and live there, and they can be talked to, but they mostly speak in riddles. Sometimes the angels can be convinced to go with them on the battlefield, sometimes in the way just of a blessing, sometimes in the way of, like, a powerful fighter to fight within the army. And so you can make use of the angels if you play your cards right. And we're seeing the story from, like, a multiple point of view cast in England and in France, and actually both have issues with communicating with the angels, getting them to be active, and both fear that the other side is able to put the angels on the field and win the war, and so they try to find out ways to make that happen for them, or to go to, like, other places to seek help. I'm not far into that, because so I have to be like vague about it, but we see this actually from the point of view of, like, the King of France, some, like, dukes in England. So there are historical or personalities actually in there, and so that makes it a really interesting read also for history buffs, maybe even more than for, like, me, who has heard the names before but doesn't have, like, the whole history at hand for those characters. And actually, I'm like 11% into it. I'm really impressed by this. This is something that I want to savor, that seems to be like a really interesting story. I have the second book, Son of Night, as an arc that comes out, I think, in September, and so maybe around the time where the second book arrives, I will do, like, a review about the first two books. But this series has a lot of potential to really, draw me in. Next up, we have The Shadow of What Was Lost. It's the first installment in James Islington's Licanius trilogy. Here we have the interesting concept that people who have, like, magical abilities, the gifted, are, like, not really well liked, and are trained in, like, separate schools, a little bit separate from society. And we're following Davian, who is one of the gifted, and who is also an augur. Augurs are, like, people who can see if others tell the truth or not, and even were able to manipulate people in the past. Actually, there shouldn't be any more augurs around, because they, like, fought a war, I think, against the other nations, and they should be, like, erased, but apparently they're not. And the story really takes off when Davian is told that he is an augur and that he needs to go to some place to fulfill his destiny. His best friend is going with him, and as soon as the two leave, they leave behind their third good friend, the girl Asha. And when she wakes up in that school, everybody besides her has been killed. And Asha then, who's like a second main protagonist, is taken in by other people and brought into some kind of citadel where she's also made into a shadow. A shadow is a person that has had the potential to be gifted, but then has that magic like drawn out of them. And it leaves like their face like with black lines in them, and creates some kind of apathy a little bit. And so yeah, we're following these two characters on their journeys. This is marketed as something like for fans of the Wheel of Time and also more classic fantasy. I think it is like on a good way for me. So far I have read the first third of it. I'm not like totally loving it. It's a little bit faster paced, maybe like in contrast to like a Robert Jordan, so that is applaudable. It's an intriguing and interesting story so far, but for me it's hovering somewhere between 3 and 4 stars at the moment. And last but not least, I have The Soul of the World. This is by David Mealing. It's the first installment in his Ascension cycle, and I was really surprised because I thought that would be another classical like epic fantasy book, but actually it's a flintlock society, and the society is like very much like a conflict on a new continent that basically gives us the impression of being a fantasy version of America. And we have like two old empires like the French and the British, but here the British are called the Gand and the French are called the Saracen, and they have their colonies on these lands and fighting each other there. We are seeing this from 3 main protagonists. One is an officer in the French or in the Saracen kind of cavalry. She's called Eris, and she has access to ley line magic. This is one of the 3 magic systems that are in this book. So there are ley lines and wizards can manipulate them. And the more territory you get as like a nation, the more of the ley lines can be discovered and the more like abilities the wizards can have. So grabbing territory is one of the ways of the old empires to strengthen their magic. The second character that we're following is Serene. She is a teenager, a street artist, also in Sarasont, and she has like a companion, like a little dragon on her shoulder, and from that dragon she gets some powers to enhance her body as well, and she can tap into things like body to strengthen herself, or faith, which basically makes her invisible to other people, so she can sneak around. She's a street artist, so she mainly uses that talent to sneak into the palace grounds and draw pictures of like social events there. Our third main character is Arak-Jur, and Arak-Jur is a guardian of the Tanari tribe, I think it is, or the Sinasi. Damn it, I forgot. So these are the people that are natives to this new continent, and that is a society that reminds me a lot of Native Americans as well, with shamans who believe in the great spirits, steam tents, where the elders come together and try to decide what's best for the tribe, with certain rules of connections between the tribes. And Arakjur, as a guardian, is able to hunt great beasts, and great beasts are like incarnations of spirits, of beast spirits. And when he slays one of these great beasts, he can take on an aspect like the speed of some kind of great predatory cat, or the strength of some spirit bear or something like that. And so we have like 3 main protagonists who all have access to like different magic, and that is one of the good and bad things of the book. I personally enjoy that a lot. I read that book together with Lord and with Tina, whose channels I'm going to link below. And and we think sometimes it can get to like a little confusing to learn like 3 magic systems at one go. But I think it's still like a very interesting take, and I like, so we have, like, as I said, like a flintlock society, so the army is operating with muskets and sabers, and not like shield and sword, so that's kind of a refreshing setting. But overall, I think the thing that maybe is the main critique point I have so far, the writing itself is like very complicated. The sentence structure, the flow is not that great for me, and it has improved since I also bought the audiobook for this book, and the narrator, she does a really great job, and so I'm getting a little bit more into that as well. But from the books I'm reading, that's the one that takes most of my effort to get into the actual writing at the moment. So I would say, although I love a lot of the ideas, and I would read tons and tons of books that just deal with this kind of Native American aspect, which is the strongest and the most interesting for me, and one of the most underused possible cultures in like fantasy, and so it's really refreshing to have this here. But at the moment it's hovering around a 3-star rating for me, mainly because it feels hard to get into the actual writing. So there you go, this is what I'm currently reading. I made this a little bit longer and I separated it from the wrap-up part. You saw the wrap-up part like yesterday, so as I realized, I tend to talk a lot about the books that I'm reading and getting into them a little bit more detailed, and I wish I could do what other people could do, that they put something like talking about 10 books in actually a 10-minute video, but I'm not capable of doing this, and so I kind of separate these parts a little bit. So we get a little bit more time to get into the details I want to talk about with each book. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button. If you want to see more of me, subscribe to my channel. And until next time, I hope you get bitten by a really good book too. Bye.